The stomach is a muscular pouch that pummels and churns the bolus of food into a paste-like material called chyme. The muscularis of the stomach is modified for this function. It has 3 layers of smooth muscle in the walls of the stomach, the longitudinal and the circular layers, which are typical layers found within the majority of the alimentary canal wall, in addition to the oblique layer. It is the oblique layer that is unique to the stomach. The stomach itself is located between the esophagus and small intestine. It begins chemical digestion of proteins to their component amino acids using an enzyme called pepsin. In addition, it absorbs some lipid-soluble drugs like alcohols and aspirin into the bloodstream. The stomach is the first major organ where food spends extended periods of time, and the process of chemical digestion really begins here. Due to that, there really isn't much to absorb as far as nutrients from foods are concerned. The esophagus connects to the cardia or cardiac region of the stomach, in which food travels initially through the fundus and then to the body of the stomach. The cardiac sphincter, which is also called the gastroesophageal sphincter, relaxes to open the passageway to the stomach and allows the bolus of food to pass into the stomach from the esophagus. When the stomach is empty, the mucosa folds in on itself elaborately, and these folds are called the rugae. Figure 23.15 highlights the esophagus, which leads into the stomach. Not shown here is the cardiac sphincter muscle, which is located between the esophagus and the initial region of the stomach called the cardia. The fundus is the dome-shaped superior aspect of the stomach, which leads into the body of the stomach. Internally, the folding of the mucosa, called the rugae, can also be seen. The diagram also examines the muscularis externa of the stomach, including the third oblique layer that is unique to the muscularis of the stomach. The mucosa of the stomach contains a variety of cell types. Mucus cells that are located in microscopic gastric pits of the mucosa secrete an alkaline mucus, which is rich in bicarbonate. The mucus and the bicarbonate functions to protect the mucosa from the acids that are produced by other cells in the stomach. Deeper into the gastric pits are the cells of the gastric glands. 2 prominent cell types in the gland are the parietal cells and the chief cells. The parietal cells secrete hydrochloric acid, which functions to physically distort protein shape of the ingested food proteins, making it easier for enzymes to work on chemically digesting those proteins. And it also activates a substance called pepsinogen. The chief cells secrete pepsinogen, which is the inactive form of the enzyme called pepsin. The hydrochloric acid secreted by the parietal cells functions to convert pepsinogen into pepsin. The reason that the chief cells secrete pepsinogen is because if they produced it in its active form, which is called pepsin, the pepsin would chemically break down the proteins that are found within the chief cells. This prevents the chief cells from being destroyed by the enzyme that they produce. The pancreas, which also produces enzymes that digest proteins, does something similar physiologically. Within the gastric pits of the mucosa are the gastric glands, which contain many chief cells and a few parietal cells. So after mixing with the acids and enzymes in the stomach for approximately 2 to 4 hours, the chyme is then funneled towards the distal region of the stomach that is called the pyloric canal and the pyloric sphincter. The pyloric sphincter is a band of smooth muscle that regulates the flow of chyme from the stomach to the small intestine. When it opens, it releases just a few milliliters of chyme into the duodenum of the small intestine. This carefully regulated flow gives time for the duodenum to neutralize stomach acids that are mixed in with the chyme. At the distal end of the stomach is the pyloric antrum and the pyloric canal, which are funnel-shaped regions that lead into the duodenum of the small intestine. The pyloric sphincter or pyloric valve regulates the flow of chyme from the stomach to the duodenum.